All right, so when I do the Solution Explorer, let's get rid of that. What we have so far is the default ASPX, right? And if I go there, and I'm going to do it in design so you can just sort of see it, it's basically just the login page, right? So the default is just the login. We have a register page, which I really just did it as fast and as sturdy as possible, so I didn't even line things up. Didn't do a table or anything. I just did text and fields, and I didn't validate these, which you should do. You should, you know, add the jQuery and validate them. You shouldn't really leave unvalidated text boxes out there. So, and then we went to the grant page, and did we actually do, let's look at the grant page. So we do the design here, and all it has here has a drop-down list that will give the show all the different kinds of grants. We do an explanation, we enter the amount that we want, and we do a submit. And I think we had that working, right? So let's go walk through it just to see if everything kind of works, and then we'll move on to the last part, which is just to show the grants that a particular person has applied for and their status. All right, so I'm going to go. One of the things we should add to the default, this page, which isn't there right now, and I'm just going to do it on sources. We should just add a link to register.
Are you taking this?
I am.
Okay, thanks. Oh, you're in the default.
I'm in the default. I'm just under the table here. And the thing is that there's no way to get to the register page except to just run it. Right, so I was just going to add, from the toolbox, I'm just going to add a link button, which you don't have to do. You could just write an a hypertext href statement. So I'm under the table, right? The table ends the login thing there. So I'm just putting this under there. I'll just do it as register link button. And I'm going to, where it says link button here, just do register. All this does is it basically creates a hyperlink. You could easily just write the HTML, right?
Can you just,
We need to add one other thing here, but this is, yeah, it's a link button. The only difference between this and a hyperlink is that you can actually execute code in this as an event, as well as do the hyperlink. We're not going to.
So it is
It's a link button. And I'm also going to do target URL equals, didn't like target URLs, probably needs to be capitalized. Is that the right one? I want the IntelliSense. Should. Are you running?
I'm sitting on them.
Yeah, is your program running?
It should be.
All right, so target. So it's not target. That's it. I knew it was something. Thank you.
And did you just type all this, or did you drag that?
I drag it in.
The last part? Bottom? Oh, I see.
I just broke the line to keep it on page. And I'm going to do register ASPX. And I double clicked it in there. This is sort of the root, look at root and that. It was in my IntelliSense, right? So to get IntelliSense, I had to do another space. So the only point of this is just so that we can go from the login page, click to register, right? On the register page, we should have a thing back to login. It is possible we could log in for them when they register. But
You just drag
Yeah.
and drop register over?
No, it was in the IntelliSense when I did postback URL equals quotes. It was in my list, but you could type it in. So this again, the other thing you could just do is a hyperlink, href equal, you know, register ASPX. See, when I look at the design, all we have now is a little blue line register. Right? It just looks like a hyperlink.
I see what you mean error. It says error creating control register link button. The server tag is not working.
So there's something like a space out of whack. So the target URL, let's go back to that. Actually, back to default. The stuff that in between here is what shows up as the text, and this is the target where you're going. All right, and then on the reason I went to the register page is I don't think there's any way back to log in. Unless, did we do that on the, let's look at the code. No, so we probably want a link there too. So I have 2 copies of register up for whatever reason. Yeah, I think we finished it. The only thing I think I'm going to do is after this P, I'm just going to add one or more of those.
I mean, we didn't like plug it in the development line. So we don't know if it worked or not without changing anything.
I have a result label.
Well, we have them, but I don't think I'm gonna see it.
Did we not on the? Let's look at the CS.
Do that or I just hold it.
I have just if result. I have you were registered. Otherwise, something went wildly wrong.
No, I guess
Am I still running? Why is my toolbox so empty? General.
Are you on the wrong page?
No. This one should have, the tools should be there.
Yeah, I got them.
Yeah, why do I not have them? I'm not running.
I think that happened to me last Wednesday.
What, and you didn't figure out why it was?
I don't figure it out why, so I just typed up the command right here.
Yeah, I can type it in. So it would be ASP link button, ID equals login, it should have quotes, login, link button, so run at equals server, and postback URL. The trick here with no IntelliSense is if I'm getting the caps right. Is it capital URL? Does anyone have tell us that?
Yep, it's just capital U.
U and then lowercase URL. Equals, and I'm going to do that tilde backslash default, which I don't think it's case sensitive, but ASPX, and I'll close, oops, quotes, close, and then I'm going to put login and ASP link, and the button should be capitalized, right? See what happens if I look at that. Look at this, and I don't have, it's acting like I'm running. I don't have the multiple views down here either. I'm running it to see if it works. So there's login, and it works. So what it's doing, I have no idea. So while we're here, let's just run through it real quick, and then we'll finish this up and go to the next thing. So I'm not going to log in right now. I'm going to go register. I just want to make sure it all kind of works. So let's register somebody. Neither Bunny, Conger, nor Gomez. Who do we want to register? Anybody have a good name? Jackson. So Jackson is the last name. Samuel. How do you Sam? U-O? E-O. Jack at gmail.com. Apartment we can leave empty. I have no idea where. 230 some street. Hollywood? We got a lot of Hollywood here. California. Home phone, let's do 259. Actually, I should probably do the 555. Let's this time do a work phone. And password will be Jackson Pass. So we submit that. No. And it says I was registered. So I'm going to do login. And I'm going to just do so I did it as Samjack? Samjack?
Samjack.
At gmail.com. And then it would be Jackson Pass. I always want to do an @ sign there now. Okay. So when we log in, it should go to register. We choose what we want. Yes. What would it be?
Home repair.
Home repair. Needs cleaning. Interim amount. All right. So it will make a grant. This would be denied, but that's a different thing. All right. So everything sort of works that we have so far. The next step would be so that they could go see their status of their grants and stuff, for which we probably also need to put in a little link here. And if you were really designing this, you'd probably want to create like a menu and options so it was clear what was going on. So one of the things I'm going to do, I'll kill that, and I'll just make sure that the stuff actually went into the database. And I think, I don't know if it's still there, but I think under the service, no, oh, we can do it here. I'm going, this is the server, I'll make a new data connection. I just want to see that it wrote. So local host, community assist, okay. And then I'll go down, and so we want to see that they got registered. So I'm actually going to just right click and do new query. And it should let me do select star from person. And the very last person should be Samuel Jackson. Okay. And their key is 133, so I'm going to check on person address. So 133. One of the things that I would want to fix if I was doing this for real is that the text boxes are passing empty text, not nulls. Right? And we would really want to make it a null because it's writing, it's literally writing an empty quote in there. And that's a problem when you're looking for nulls and things. So we would want to do it if the text is in, make it a, does that make sense? But I'm not going to worry about it right now. Person contact, or actually it's just contact. And there should be contacts work and home, or so there they are, 133. And thing would be grant request. And the last one should be, we'll need 3D. So all of that worked. That's a good thing to know.
Can I just look at the other registry?
Yeah. The link.
Yeah, just,
So we have one more piece of this, which is just look at the all the brain on all the.
We show the default SPX.
Do you need this? Got it. Which part? You just want the ASPX part of the? I'm actually going to add another link button here while we're here, which will be to go to see your what your group. This is on default ASPX, and I'm just going to grant link button, and I'll just say view and I might put these into a P just so that the spaces are preserved, although we could put a that's not right, NBSP, right? All stuff that should be done probably with CSS. But otherwise, I was just afraid to run together. And I need a URL for this. Post back URL equals, what do we want to call this page that we haven't made? PS here. Probably a way to format these. Does that make sense? Anyway. And then we'll make that page, and we'll be done with assignment 6. And then we'll start talking about 7, which will probably confuse everyone and honestly for Dave. As I said, I don't expect you to remember all the detail out of these classes. There's too much of it. It's the idea of this in a class, just to get the general idea of that. And I didn't talk about it again, but the key to this is having made the reference to the service over here. That reference ties us to the service so we can use its things that it has. New page? All right.
I know Dory 4.
And are you still?
I love the video.
I'm so sorry. These two. Right?
In the classes where honors is here,
Yeah, I don't think Honors had any problems.
we never had that happen.
It's a mixture of a time, probably.
Well, we're doing PM 1:30 in the afternoon. We never had enough.
Right, but I think it's because you're first. Well, but that shouldn't apply because the updates are different. So it would apply. That should make a difference.
That say sit at your own risk.
Serious. Yes.
Like,
Or just straight up sit somewhere else.
Well, I mean, some of the problems this quarter were just the machine died twice.
So
And
you
I
could, like, put in a new hard drive.
They
or
did,
just
and actually they
put
moved in
one?
a whole new machine. First they put in a new hard drive, then they pulled in a whole new machine. I have a suspicion that it might have been related to another person who sat there. Not on purpose. But. All right, so let's add a web page. And since we called it here, view grants, I think that's what we need to call it here.
I was like, I don't have that one.
Yeah,
I'll have to get that one.
We're creating it.
we're creating it right now.
And just a new web form.
Yeah. And I am going to do this really, it would be nice probably to do something pretty here, but I think I'm just going to use the grid view again. Unless you guys want to take the time Yeah, it's a new page, new web form. If you want to take the time, so there's grid view, which is basically just the table. And then there's like a data list, which is a little bit more subtle than a table, because it allows you to organize things in a, less boxy way. But it takes a little bit of doing. You have to do some work, both in the ASP page and in the back end. So it's a little bit more work. The nice thing about the grid is and dirty. So I think I'll just leave it at the grid because just for speed. But you should look at some of the other tools if you're ever working with this. Some of them will allow you to do, as I said, much more sophisticated layouts. You can also always do like you do in PHP. We're just binding things to the controls, but you can always pull up the data set and loop through it and write it into the HTML if you want. That works here too. Web form. There isn't any web page listed. You can get an HTML page, but that won't do you what you want.
What's it called? View grants?
View grants is what I called it. And I'm going to go to the code. I'm just going to right click, view code. So a couple of things that I want to do. We're going to populate this. So that from the page. I also make sure that the there. So the first thing I'm going to check for the if session user key equal null, then what we want to do, and I'll do the curly braces so that, oops, I did square braces. Though you don't have to technically have them. I am going to response redirect, and we'll go to default ASPX. So we'll go back to the login. So if the user key isn't there, then we go back to the login. Does that make sense? That means you can't get to this page without logging in. I'm going to make another method. Get grants. And we'll call that from here. So it'd be just get grants. I'm doing that not get that. You guys need a minute? So gonna see if the user key is there. If not, we'll throw you back to the login. And in here, what we're going to do is we're going to call the service, and remember we made a method in this that would grant. And I think what we want, so first we need to reference to RB service, and I think that was CA service reference dot CA service client. Call it, I don't remember what I called it before, but it doesn't matter. Equals new and the same things. Okay, so we've made it to the method that we want returns. I'm going to do a service reference dot. Well, actually, I think what I want to do, I'm going to. Actually, that might be what I want. Grant, remember that class? I'm going to do square brackets equals CAS dot, and I think it's grants, right? Get grants by person. And I need, actually, before I do finish that, I'm going to do int key equals int square brackets user key. Right, so we're going to get the key out of the session, and then I'm going to pass it down here, make it. What is it not like there? Oh, I didn't give it a variable name. What do we call grants? So info, this is an array of grant info, right? Remember how we were returning a list of grant info? For some reason on the client side, lists turn into arrays. I haven't figured that out, but I just know it because I've fought with it before. So to get access to the grant info class, we have to go through the service reference. But it is aware of the class we made. We're giving it a local name, and then we're calling the method in the service that gets grants by person, and the person that we're going to give it to is whoever's in the session. Their key. And then, actually, all we have to do is take our grid, which I didn't name, so it's still grid view 1, dot data source equals grants and grid view 1 data byte. And that's it. That should be the end of it here. Is it still updating?
3%.
Wow. Oh, this is videotaped and the code will be up.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I don't have time to look at videos on my free time.
Yeah.
That's why I like bust my ass riding my bike to class so I can get here and do my work. But
If you need a time to walk through some of this, just let me know.
it's not your fault. It's just
Oh, it is. It is still feel bad.
don't feel bad. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
I'm getting it's giving me an error for the grid view 1.
All right, so you have a grid on your page.
I got whatever.
View grid. I don't see a grid on there.
What do I do?
Go down to data. Data grid view. Just drag it on between the divs. Look up grid view 1. So you just need to, if you don't have the grid view 1, back on the ASPX page, go to the source, just drag your grid view 1 on here. Yeah.
It's not recognizing when I type grant info.
Did you make a class in your, let's look at here.
Yeah. Yeah. They have everything. I heard it. That's right.
Yeah, that's what it is. What if So graphic code, so let's see.
No, no.
Do you have anything more to say? It may take a while. You'd have to close the- I guess you can close out your hand. You might have it then.
You know why? Yeah, I know why. Yeah. It should work. Because of the argument. I was thinking that. We'll get going. Give me a while to look at it. You've worked on the other pages though?
Yeah.
So that's strange. All right, this should work. I'm going to actually run it from here, which will probably send me back to login. If it doesn't send me back to login, it means my key is still active. So it says view grants, but it popped me back to login. All right, so the person that I just did was Sam Jack, right? Would help memory longer seconds. .com and Jazz. Okay. So I've logged in. Oh, this is a problem. It goes here automatically. But I just did the back thing, and I'm going to go view my grants. And it should allow me now because but I'm not seeing anything. I'm on the page, but it's not showing anything. So let's stop it.
There's probably a link.
I did, I know right there.
I'm going to try that. Did we try that, right? So I'm going to get grants by person. It was 133. Invoke. Okay. And that gave me nothing.
Oh, we didn't send the register.
Uh-oh. See if it's right after.
So I'm getting nothing.
You did put a link up.
Do we have to update the address of the service?
Well, we haven't changed any service. It should be getting the data live.
Okay, we did miss it, but I'm running the service that we did before.
Right.
And when I relaunch it, every time I relaunch it, it gives me a different socket.
But it was still working. I mean, on mine it worked
Okay.
because it worked on the other pages, right? And 133 should return us. But I'm not getting any, when I do the grant here, even when I test it, I'm not getting anything for grants for people that do exist. 133 may not, 132 may not exist. Let's try 120. And that gave me a grant. Why did 133 not go? You return 0. Why does the person key 133 return 0? That doesn't make sense to me. $124. Returns the grant. Why does 133 not return the grant? One should return several. So that returns 2. And if I go to if I go back to the default up here and run, who is number 1? Is that Jay Anderson?
I think so.
Is it Jay Anderson at gmail.com? And then Anderson pass. Login. Login failed. Is it JPass? I thought I did.
No, it's Anderson Pass.
That's what I thought. That should work, right?
Yeah.
Login failed. Oh, I'm having interesting things on this database. Let me look at the SQL. Let's just do select star from person.
It's not giving me 120 on the client, and it does show that it.
Yeah, it should. So why, but it didn't with
It's just the
one.
letter J Anderson at Gmail, that's why.
It is Jay Anderson at Gmail. Okay. All right, so if I go back to default, I don't know why 133 isn't showing up though. Okay, so I can log in. It goes to view grants. Then I have to go back here and then view the grants, and then it shows them both. But I'm not sure why 133 isn't showing. One last time on that, but I'm not going to spend hours debugging it. We'll go on. So the last person I did was, so it was Jack Grant. Oh, that won't work. Login failed. What was their email? Sam Jack with Gmail. I might get an illegal page here. No. Still failed. Okay, there goes. Oops, I didn't want to do that. That'll crash. All I wanted to see is if it would work. It's taking too long. It did work for the others. It may work for Samuel Jackson. If I'm just wondering if it was like a delay in seeing it. Last try, and then we move on to the next assignment after talking through this one last time. Okay, I'm just going to go back. View grants. And nothing. That is weird.
That's that one guy.
That's just that one guy. It seems to work for any other number that's in there. But that's the person we just added.
Did you refresh your database?
Well, it shouldn't have to refresh.
I know, yeah.
Using the 120, which did work, I put in another grant, that only showed the original grant. So it's only reading like.
It's not reading the new grant,
Doesn't read the additional data on the other guy's work.
which doesn't make sense. It should read the new data, and I've never had it not read the new data. One real quick. It is writing the changes because we saw it in the table. And then when we do this, we're coming back. We're doing, we're getting the date, explanation, name, amount, status, grant info for each GR in grants. Grant info, get it. We're adding it to the grant info. We're adding the grant info. We're returning the info. So we should be loading through, and there's nothing in this that should keep it from getting everything that's in there. Well, I think I'm going to move on because I have other stuff to cover, but I will try to debug that until I see if I can figure out why it's not doing the new ones. Does anybody have any idea? It doesn't make sense to me. It should be pulling up all of them.
That was altered highlight down actually.
I can't see anything that would cause it to be not getting the most new ones. But if it's also doing it here, right?
How many new ones did you add?
Just a couple. Today I just added this one, 133. When I invoke that, it comes up with nothing. If I do 125, which I think we added last time, it gives me the grant. So it's just not giving me the grant of the current. Yeah,
Unrelated question.
sure.
Mine doesn't seem to be able to start debugging. Can't go look at it.
So it may be that there's an error, right?
There are no errors. It's not that problem. I had another project.
So you might have to. So let's look real quickly. So what I would do is I'll close out and try to fix it. Yeah, go ahead and save it. Anyway, what questions do you have on this other than the fact that it doesn't work perfectly? I've never had it not pick up the new stuff before. And I haven't done anything different, so I don't know. So real quickly review of this, of the whole thing, and then we will move on to the next thing, which is model view control. And I'll show you, today might be mostly show and tell on that, but we'll see. So what we did is we wrote a service. This was our last assignment. We went through and we added all of the, the methods to the interface. We added the service. We were running the service. And everything seems to, work. The idea is that you're creating a layer between you and any database, where the web page can access the service and needs to know nothing about the database. All right, and then the other part of this was the client, and what the client does is it just talks to the service. So, and you do that by way of a service reference. With a real website, you can have multiple references, right? You can reference multiple services. They'll all have their own name. And that's not atypical that a website would have several different services that you would access, right? You're used to services if you have your phone. You have your weather service, right? You have also all sorts of different services, your location service. All of those things reside somewhere out on the web as services, and your phone just ties into them. because there's no reason, particularly on a phone, you don't necessarily want to write all that code locally, just for space, storage, and processing. So you do it elsewhere, and then you just tie into it. So this kind of building services is really becoming the way to work with apps and also web pages more and more. And actually even Windows underneath it all, a lot of these services, Windows Communication Foundations, WCF services can run under, there's two ways you can run them. One is as a web service by running it under Internet Information Services, their web server, or you can run it under Windows services. So you can build a program in Windows that consists of just accessing services. And there are, if you've ever looked under My Computer under services, there are hundreds of services running on Windows at any one time. If you have the API for them, you can access them and do things with them. I don't know. Microsoft used to publish big books with the API. Do they do that anymore? Probably not. It's probably all online. But. So that's this assignment. I will save it and upload it. I might try to comment it. I didn't get the other one commented too well, but I'll try to upload it with some comments. Yeah.
So should we, rather than do exactly what we wanted to, should we just turn in what we have?
Yeah, just go ahead and turn in. The only thing it doesn't do is it's not picking up the brand new registration, even though it's in the database. That's what part that drives. If it weren't registering in the database, that's a different issue, but it's actually writing to the database. It just isn't bringing it up in the client, and it should. I've never had it not. I will play with it at home, and if I find that solution, I'll let you know. So at this point, we can close. If it might be better just to close everything down, and then we'll open a new Visual Studio. So I'm going to close.
Closing the client, correct?
I'm closing the client and the service.
Okay.
We're just going to start a clean slate. It's a whole new thing. I'm going to show you the model view control. But yeah. Sure. Give me 1 second to finish my sentence. I'll come and help you there. So control, but I was also going to say that this service client thing is also kind of model view control. Do you guys know what model view control is?
MVC.
Yeah, MVC. So model is which? What part is the model? Data or files. It's the data layer, right? It could be any of it, different things, but usually a database, but it could even be accessing just files. The model, that's the model. Client, that's the web pages. Right, it's ideally controller data from the and passes it to the field in values, passes it to the model. So the controller is what combines the two. Ideally, now the model is unaware of the view, and the view is unaware of the model, and then the controller is the only thing that needs to be aware of both. In Microsoft's implementation, that's not exactly how it works. I'll show you in just a minute. Let me see about. So it sounds like your connection is in. Is it working anywhere else? What is the you know what, it's possible that your service is no longer registered. So what you might want to do is just to kill your service and re-register. One of the things that can happen doing it this kind of hokey way we're doing it, just so you guys know, is that the service, when you're running it, it can change its IP address because it's just a temp IP. And sometimes and you can fix that if you figure out what your IP is and go into the config files and change the IP address, but it's easier just to kill the service and rejoin it. You know, just relink it. But it can change the IP address. Okay, so I will upload those. Let's open another Visual Studio. And I'll show you the Microsoft implementation. And I'm going to show you what you get for free just from the wizard first, and then I'll show you how to modify it. So this is one of the only times, I think, I'm trying to remember. One thing I should show you first too, since we have this up. We don't have it up. I want to, if I went to the I'll just add a tab. Conger prep.blogspot. So I did MVC in the blog, in this blog, and the links are in the assignment. Just a thing. So the first part, which we're kind of going to do here, is basically where you go through, and this is, I said, what you get for free. This is what you get for just doing the wizard. So I walk through this, and that's essentially what I'm going to do today, except I'll do it with community assistance through the book review. So there's all of this. This is what you get for free, and it's looking at the code that it generates and various things. Part 2 is modifying the generated code, because there are things that it does, like it shows you the password and stuff that you don't want to do. And then the third part, which is actually probably what you really want to do, is creating things from scratch. And so we'll kind of go through these, but I'll do them with community assistance instead of the book review. So one of the things I'm going to do, go back to Visual Studio. This is one of the only times when we're going to do File, New, Project. And let me look at the wizard, because it's that I'm trying to remember. Oh, and then we want a new ASP.NET web application. So new project, C#, ASP.NET web application. Does that make sense? So this is a little bit different, and we should give it a name. Some of you have done this web application before, but I usually don't have you do it because it gives you so much stuff by default. So but you can't, it's easier to get to the model view control this way. What do we want to call it? Well, it's actually going to be assignment 7. All right. So I'm going to do OK here, and it should give me another list of templates underneath the web. And what do you see? Right? It's got web API, single page application, web forms, empty. Empty here will bring you basically to the same, pretty much the same place we were before. But we want to do MVC. So I'm going to click on that. Now, this is important. We're not hosting this in the cloud. All right, by default, it goes to Azure. But you have to have an Azure account. We could, one of these stuff will give you an Azure account for free for, anybody remember how long, 3 to 4 months? An Azure account?
If you sign up,
Microsoft Web Cloud account.
if you sign up for the web Visual Studio Web Essentials online group, you can get a $25 credit a month for 1 year.
For 1 year. And $25 is actually a pretty good credit for learning. They only start charging you when you start having traffic, right? When people start coming to your site. It's kind of like Amazon has the same thing. AWS will give you a year of with a certain amount of credit. One thing I prefer about Azure, if you max your credit, they just cut you off, which is better than Amazon, because if you max your credit and go beyond it, Amazon charges you for everything you go beyond your credit. So Microsoft won't charge you, they just cut you off. Amazon charges you if you go beyond your amount. They do give you frequent alerts and things to tell you where you are.
To be cut off.
So we're doing MVC. Make sure you uncheck host in the cloud. Otherwise, you're going to have to direct it to an Azure account that you probably don't have. So, and I'm going to do OK. And it'll take it a second. When we look at the Solution Explorer, you'll see that it has bunches of stuff in
I'm
there.
sorry, did you say that you unclicked Azure?
Yes, do unclick it. Unless you want, if you have an account, one.
I haven't bothered with that sign up yet.
Yeah. All right. So it's almost there. All right. So I'm going to do Solution Explorer. Notice that you get a page. You have a fairly sophisticated CSS already. It's actually using Bootstrap. Okay, so if you know Bootstrap, if you look into the scripts, there's jQuery and there's Bootstrap. Right, you get that all for free. As I said, one reason I don't start here is you have so much stuff. It has models, and it actually gives you some models at the start. They're not models that I particularly want to use, but they will. They're basically for keeping track of logins, and it has an automatic login and all of that stuff. The login is stored in the application as a SQL Server file, but it's not related to anything else. So your login is just local to this. So if you wanted to use it, you could. It actually has, so you have references. The references are like to all of the libraries that it's referring. You can pretty well ignore that. There's nothing in the app data right now. The app start has some config files, lots of different config files. As I said, this stuff gets complicated fairly quickly. Under content, we have the Bootstrap. The content is a weird name for it, but this is the CSS file where you might want things. And the trouble is, as I said, it's often, to me, harder to undo what they've done than it is just to do your own. Controller, it has built-in controllers, which we could remove. I tend to just leave them, but you could remove them. We'll make our own controllers in a moment. It has models, and it has, and there's a couple of these are important. The ones used, and both of those have places where if you want to change this page, you need to go down to shared one and also change the home index. This, anybody died? There's, do you have many folders? Everything is broken off into its own kind of asset. You can see that this can get confusing. We're going to contract. We're going to contract models via controllers. So to add a model, first thing I'm going to do is add a model. I forget what to do in the assignment. Just looked at it, probably not. We'll just add most everything. I'm going to add, so we want to add, I'm in models, but it's not really showing me that. I just want to add a new model. So I guess I have to do a new item. And we want, basically we want ADO. So we'll do data, and we'll do ADO, the entity data model. Right, so we're going to add use the entity model again to add data. So the way I did that, since I see confusion, right-clicked on models, add new item, and then up here I had to click on data, and then there's ADO data entity model. Oh, I'm going to call it CA model 1. I'll leave the 1 on there just in case it conflicts with the earlier CA.
People's first name, last name, email, but without their password, hash.
Right. So pretty simple. I may have simplified it because I was thinking time would be an issue. Oh, right. So yeah, modify that. We'll do that, and we could do a little bit more, maybe. Do the. I'm going to just let Wizard do it for a little bit. Add this, and this wizard will be exactly the same as it was in the others, right? So I'm just going to do from design your database. We'll need a new connection. Local host, unless you're on your own machine, and then do what makes sense. I'll use community assist. Whoops, I missed. Going to do OK. Just going to do next. So let's do, we definitely want person address, contact. Those are all I actually really required, but let's do, what else do we want to do? Donation or? Let's just do, grant. I'm trying to think of which one I want to do. Let's do grant request and grant review, just to have them there. So we have person address, contact type. We do need the stored procedure, the register one. I think that's all we need. And if you're uncomfortable with the choice, you can always just choose everything.
Register registration.
Mine says register. You have registration because we did it in class.
Oh, that's right. Right. No,
If you want to use your own, you could.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
Hence, if mine doesn't seem to see the database,
You can't see the database?
it won't load in the fields.
All right, let me look.
Yeah, I think
So is yours database running? It was running before, right?
Yeah, I connected to it.
And is yours,
She's talking about.
data source SQL? Is that the right thing? SQL Server?
But then it has me trying to search for the database.
Well, don't do the database. Server name you need to choose. Is yours, so, okay. And then look at
No, I am
the
not. Oh, wait, there we go. I had to open it.
Yeah.
I had to run it now.
I thought that you found it, but then I saw it was here.
This is the part where so far.
Yeah, no, and then once I did,
An
it
error message.
What
now
about,
let's see, what do we
just type local, what is it, the server
Sorry.
to, okay. Could your server have stop time? Have you worked on the other, right?
What else did he put on?
That's probably.
So it's
Database.
contact, grant request, grant review, person,
Contact, grant request, grant review person,
and person address.
Okay.
And
and
then
then review.
under stored procedure and
Let's
function.
see, here's the one right here.
Yeah.
USP register.
Yeah.
And then with the.
Nope, that's where all, that's where we're at now.
Okay, you are.
Quit messing with my neighbor's chairs. So, we're so happy.
So let me read.
Oh, yeah. So
It's
she
like
was,
a contact, grant request, grant review,
What was the next question?
person,
it's Schrodinger's,
person,
not Schrodinger's, it's like,
and then database.
yeah, it's like,
I mean, under store procedures and functions, want register. And that's kind of how to stop.
so if you look up, Schrodinger, yeah, it's like the first one goes under Schrodinger.
Now you may have to restart this.
Yeah. So that must be the.
Today, I had part of the tea, but I got it tomorrow. I have a, okay, that's why not for Easter.
Is yours started or was it off?
Yeah, it was a break, right? You feel like
It
you're
should.
So it's this one right
It
here.
was.
It's time dependent Schrodinger.
It was, but no, this.
Size them up, see who your competition is in class.
Did yours work?
I'm trying to remember. The first one.
Yeah, it was.
Anthony, do you have this working?
Huh?
Do you have it working?
No. And for some reason, my computer was. The connection.
So I'm gonna do finish.
Okay, well, I'll just probably copy it off this GitHub then. Because I'm on
You still
12%.
aren't connecting to this, right? Try this as local host. Just try local host, you know, that's the meeting. And then see if you get this stuff. Or you can log SQL Express, right?
It is actually.
Try that, // SQL Express.
Yeah, that was my one test.
It is that.
Yeah, SQL Express.
Oh, yeah, it was.
See if that says it to you.
There we go. Thank you. Community is great.
Yeah.
They had to let me a year without the button.
No, we don't need any views. So once again, we get these warning errors. This won't take too long. I think I'm just going to run the wizard and show you what's there, and then next time we will modify it and do the assignment. And then I might show you how to do one from scratch or not, but it's there in the blog.
You look the model name the same.
What did I name the model?
Model
I
one.
called it CA Model 1. It doesn't matter much. You never address it in code. The only time it matters is if you're remaking it. Sometimes you'll get an error. So like your thing failed and you're running it again. If you use the same model name, sometimes it'll give you an error that it already exists. So I have my model. My model is fairly simple. As I said, it has person, grant request, grant review. Should have person, there's contact, and then there's person address. And I put the grant request in there mostly because that's what I'm going to run the automatic wizard on. So model is there. I am going to do like before. I'm going to use the single disk to save it because I don't know why it doesn't seem to register that it's there unless you save it multiple times. So I'm going to close those references because that's a lot of stuff. So now we have a model with all of our the classes. You can see them a little bit better here. Here it does them as separate files in the MVC, and I don't know why. We have the contact CS, we have the grant review CS, we have the person CS, the person address CS. It's pretty much just like it was in the other context, except for each one of these, it does it as a separate file now. Why it does it as a separate file here and not in the service, I don't know. But it does here. All right, so I am going to then add a controller. Are you guys ready with the model? Once the model is there, you can kind of ignore it. Okay.
Your model's inside of the model folder.
Yes, yes.
Mine's on the outside of it, also didn't name it what I told it to name it.
Yeah, it actually should be in the model folder.
Yep. Is there any reason why?
Did you, when you ran it, did you not? I right-clicked on the model folder to run. Did you do that? You could probably copy it all into the models.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try that.
Okay.
I don't know, I get a lot of warnings about templates that are on it.
Yeah. Ideally, you want all your models in the model folder and all your controllers in the controller folder. If you don't have them in there, I'm not even actually sure if they'll work.
It's in the folder now.
Yeah, maybe it will. And then maybe save. So I'm going to right-click on the controller folder. Are you guys ready? And I'm going to add, and what I'm going to add shouldn't be a surprise. I'm going to add a controller. When we do this, we'll have lots of options. We could do an empty controller, which is what you would want to do if you want to write your own. We could do a controller with views using an entity framework, which is what we will do. And then there's, controllers with read-write actions. There's these API 2 different things. I'm not entirely sure what the API 2 does, but we're going to just use this one because I know it. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to do add. It should give me a chance to name it. Yeah. So the model class, if you do a drop down there, you should be able to see the entities somewhere. So it has contact. We were going to do this on grant request. The data context class is the community assist entities. Notice it has things to generate views, reference the script libraries, use a layout page. And it's going to be called grant requester controller unless you want to name it something else. So pause here for a moment. This is automatically going to create things. Again, if you want to do it by hand, you would do an empty one. But one of the things that I would do if you're trying to learn MVC from the Microsoft model is I would run the wizards more than once, and then I would analyze the code that it does, because then it tells you what you need to do when you make your own. Does that make sense? You guys need anything more here? So I'm going to add, oh, there was an error. So let me try real quickly building the project. Yeah. And let's see if it makes a difference.
You canceled out of the add controller.
Yeah, because it died anyway. Controller. I'm going to do the same thing. Add. Model class will be the grant request. And again, the community assist. Everything else should be okay. And having built it, now it's building it. I don't know why I had to build first.
What happens if you get the error saying, getting the type assignment 7 models that request heavy build project? It was grant review.
Yeah, so then you need to build it. Go up to the build menu.
Okay.
And then build it and then run the controller again. It was grant request.
Oh, build assignment 7?
Well, if it worked, you don't need to. If you didn't get the error.
I did. Yeah, error. Okay, so. Well, this saves a lot anyway, so it's just like no matter what I click.
So if you build this, none of this is actually directly part of the assignment anyway. But
Build solution?
yeah, if you build solution, what it does is it compiles it. It wants to be compiled before it adds this. I'm not sure why.
So you build solution and then add it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did what I started it, and then I saw the error. Then I just killed that, and then went in and built it, and then I ran it again. If you want, I can run it another time. We can go through the wizard again with another table. Notice that there is a grant request controller here. So what I want to do is just sort of look at what the controller does, and it's a little bit baffling initially. So these things have action results, and the action result is indexed. Every folder, there's a folder of views that we're going to look at right now. So this is basically targeting the index in that folder, right? And it's creating a grant request variable, and it's getting it from the DB. And notice the DB is what it's called. It's already made the connection to our model, right? Our community assisted entities and called it DB. So grant request is going to include, this is called, we don't generally have to do it for anything we're going to do, but this is called a lambda notation. Yeah.
I've got grant type in there too for some reason, and grant GW or something. Oh, yeah, I did click on all the tables.
It might be, yeah. Well, it might be you have more tables than I do. That's fine.
Yeah.
Basically, what it's going to do is it's going to take this and turn it into a list and return the list to index. Okay, so index is down here under views, and I'm going to close account. Now, notice under grant requests is created a create, delete, details, edit. So to the let's look at X real quickly. Let's open that. So this is part of this model view control thing that Microsoft does. Why is it underlined? Oh, well. That I don't really like. That's fine. It registers the model with a view. right? So they're not as independent as they should be theoretically. The view needs to know the model. It creates a thing called a view bag, and the view bag is what this is. It's an index. Down here, this is just HTML for the index. It creates a P, and it gives you an action link, create new, create, and create. These are buttons, right? They look like hyperlinks, but they're essentially buttons. It creates a table, and in the table, it gives you the names for all of the fields. So a table with the headings. And then it does a for each, and it goes through and gets all the fields for the model. And then down here, it has some more buttons, edit, details, and delete. So that's the view, right? So we looked at the controller, we looked at the view. The fact that the controller, the first method there, goes to index, that's where it gets directed to this. Let's look at it, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's actually not too terrible. So I am going to, I don't know if it'll run from here. I think it'll go to the home. I'm just wondering if it'll run from this view. It did go to grant request index, so it's actually on the page. It's taking it a while. Probably should have pre-compiled it.
So this is sort of like PHP's list view.
Yeah, it's kind of a list view, and you don't get, because we did it with the wizard, you probably would want to modify this. It doesn't necessarily give you everything you want. Notice it substituted the last name for the number. Right, it did that on its own. And you, because you had an extra table in there, may have substituted the grant type name instead of the grant type key.
Did you run it from index?
Well, if it takes you to the other thing, I can show you how to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to do. Will it just running?
When you come back and do it,
Will it just continue?
yeah, I had to read, that's what happened. I didn't even bring it in, and I had to come back the next time and it, oh, now it did.
Yeah, you did.
That's what you do. Yeah, I had to come back and we went from the second class.
So again, the layout may not be exactly what you want. We can add things to the menu by going into the template, the layout template. We can, ultimately the second whole blog entry there is how to modify these views because they're not necessarily what you want. When I do create new, it gives me this. Notice it's kind of neat where I can choose who it is because the person has to exist to be asked for a grant, so there is a list there. And again, this isn't necessarily what you would want to do, particularly since it's the last name. There's probably a lot of last names that are the same. How do you know whose is whose? So I'm not sure that's what I would do there. But you could do, and you could do that. You could go back to the list. You can go to edit, and you can edit this, right? So you can change and then edit and then save. Back to the list. So it gives you the whole crud. Details just gives you a different view of it. And you can go from edit or back to the list. And you can delete it. It may not delete because of, actually this is a child table, probably would delete. So it gives you all of that. You get all that with the wizard. It's all done in, as I said, it has a bootstrap thing, but it's not necessarily what you want. Also, as an admin, you can do the CRUD. I'm not sure how many websites you want to just do CRUD on. In a CRUD being create, the R is revise or edit. No, what? Oh, create, read, edit, and delete. Okay. Brain is gone. That would be cred. Yeah. Okay.
Everybody wants some credit.
Yep. If you go back here, notice it says application name. So you could give the application a name. It goes here. You can edit this whole page and make it look like what you want. But again, you're not going to want a web page that looks like this. You're going to want to do something different about it all. So to here, you basically have to go in and change all the existing CS and change the look of the pages. So you have to undo most of it. But I would start off, if you're going to learn this, and next time we'll finish this assignment, we'll just do the assignment part. I would start off doing kind of things because it takes a while to figure out what in the heck is going on. Right. So this is, if you've done PHP, it's kind of like putting a script tag in there. All this razor is sort of a shorthand C# scripting or scripting. But that's what these ats and these curly braces are about, is putting scripts in your HTML.
Is that lambda notation the same type of, is that the same use that, like the same meaning that it is in WordPress and PHP?
Probably. It's
Okay.
pretty common along almost every modern computer languages now has a lambda type
Okay.
notation.
I've been doing WordPress all weekend and it's like all over the place.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I could explain. Basically, a lambda is like a in C++. It's kind of like a function pointer, which doesn't help much with us, but
No, that's how it's used in WordPress. It points to a function.
yeah, it's basically you're directing something to a function.
Yeah.
And it's typically a function that's in C#. It's like a delegate. I mean, it's fairly complex. Luckily, you just have to memorize a few. The reason why they do this is that it actually is easier and more of a shorthand than doing it along, writing it all out.
Why is it called lambda notation?
It's a good question. Lambda. We could look real quick. So let's.
AWS or Lambda.
Yeah, well, I think that it is all kind of related.
Really?
So lamb, there's no B in it, is there? Is there?
Yeah, there is.
Lambda notation. I saw it. So there's in C#, but I think it's kind of, so it's got the expression like that. A lambda expression is an anonymous function that you can use to create delegates or expression type trees. That's probably not super helpful. Delegate.
Maybe out of calculus.
It could be. So it's an anonymous function. That's what, and I think that is its meaning in almost any. So lambda calculus is a formal system in mathematical logic for expressing computation based on function abstraction, which is essentially what they're doing.
Okay.
It's function abstraction because you have an anonymous function that you're not seeing, right? So it is essentially a function abstraction. So I'm sure the lambda comes from calculus.
Okay.
And even C++ has added lambda expressions. So they're in almost every modern language. However, they are usually fairly advanced, in their usage. It's usually for fairly advanced things. But they do use it for a lot of this, these kinds of things. You'll see it. And also in the link queries, you can see it. So I think I'm going to let this be for the day. If you did this and you want to look at it, it's really easy to run these wizards. And you can run it on any table and just see what it does, just to create the, the create and edit details and all that. You can just, this isn't really model item. Notice these are model item equals item, and item is the thing for our model, and the model is declared at the top of the page. Basically, models equals grant request. As I said, that in this version of MVC, they declare the model. Again, they're not as independent as I would like. I would write it a little differently, but that's how they do it. And part of the reason is that web pages are isolated. They're from each other. It's a little harder to do that. But this tells you where the model is. So the model is the grant request date, and this is like the display name because we're just getting the field name, HTML display name, and then down here where we get the detail, it's the display for, and then this actually gives you the data. Model item equals item grant type key grant request explanation. These are the fields in the database. The thing is, the magic underneath may be difficult to figure out, but the syntax is actually pretty easy once you get it, figure it out. So to write this from scratch is not that hard. Controller is a little bit harder, but we're going to do one controller. So let's go back to the grant request controller. This looks very, it can look fairly daunting, but it's partially they've done it fairly abstractly, and also they're not giving you any variations, they're just giving you everything. I went through these, and actually in the blog entries I go through each of the methods and kind of talk through them. And when you write them, you don't quite the way they did. This just turns the object based on the something I didn't know you could do. This public action rate, it does end, and then include, and then creates in the line. It passes all the calls as a class type request, and it has those values. You're basically writing parameter. I didn't know you could do that until I played with this, and it's possible you can't do it except here. So, as I said, we'll talk through these as we do the assignment, the parts that are relevant, because we were just going to modify the insert, right?
That's what it's out of.
Yeah. In the blog entries again, I went through, and in the second one, so I modified the index, I modified the create, I modified the delete and details and the edit. So I actually went through and modified all of those. And then in the part 3, we added an empty controller. I added a temp class, like I did complete review here. And then I added a controller for that, and I did it as an empty controller. And then I wrote the code for that. I created the model, or the view. And I created the details. I went through and created each of the views and each of the methods for the models. So it's all there if you want to look at it. Anyway, have a good afternoon. Is there any questions before I? This is a lot. I feel bad because I feel like we should spend more time on all of these things. Yeah. To do them. just do them and look at it. You know, as I said, do the wizard first. Look at it, play with it, and you can learn how to adapt it fairly well. And I would also suggest that if you ever end up at a job where you have to do it, you know, run the wizards, look at it, write some code on your own. I would spend a long weekend before your first day on the job just playing with this stuff if you can. Most of you probably, as I said, this is a job that tends to be more corporate. The Microsoft stuff tends to be bigger companies. Not 100% true in this area, but overall it tends to be bigger companies that use the ASP stuff. But if you get a job, you can pick up a lot by just playing with it for a few hours. And you will have seen it, been exposed to it. I will, do you want me to post the MVC yet? There's not much there. Maybe after I finish it, yeah. I'll post the other one up though.
Although,
Come back in later.
starting as a .NET developer, you're looking in the Seattle area, you're going to make $12,000 more annually just starting.
.NET are good jobs if you can get them. They tend to pay more, partially because they are.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I saw that, and I was just like, you know, I could do .NET.
There have been, I mean, I know a few students who have gotten jobs in .NET. And you're right, they pay more. They're really nice jobs. You have to be up on it to get in there, but so you'll have to do some work on your own probably to.
Oh yeah. That much. I've even already found the meetup group for it.
Oh, good. That's actually a really good thing if you, because knowing people is how you get the first jobs. Yes.
So I'm now even further behind.
Okay.
My grades out all last week. So can we set up some time?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
You want to
trying
do
to
it now, or
think.
should I email you so you can look at your schedule easier?
Maybe email me because my schedule's starting to get pretty full.
Okay.
I'm probably not going to be here this Thursday or Friday because of a computer science thing they want me to go
Oh,
to.
that's all right. Like a convention.
Yeah. And then, but next Thursday, Friday should be all right.
Okay, I can do that.
And most Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons, although you're in here with.
Yeah, but I can skip it.
Okay.
I can skip a session.
Tuesday and Thursday afternoons are usually pretty good for me. I do have some meetings, but they tend to be on Thursdays.
Okay.
Anyway, yes, the answer is yes. We'll figure out a time.
All right, thank you. I'll email you.
I'll be
Yeah.
in later to like watch the video and try to catch up. I came in 10 minutes late and then my machine took 25 minutes to open Visual Studio. So I'm caught up on like the Assignment 7 stuff. I just don't have like the extra 5 lines you typed into like Assignment 6.
That's fine. I'm going to upload them right now too.
Cool, yeah, I'm gonna grab lunch and then come back.
I also need to stop the video.